This is the amazing MG4. If you're looking for an affordable electric family car, there is nothing better on the market. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, job done. What? It's raining. It's cold, man. Fine, I'll explain.
The MG4 is one of a growing number of electric cars produced by MG, recently resurrected by Chinese owners SAIC. Like the MG5 and MG ZS EV, it's focused very much on value. Outside of the weird two-seater personal mobility toys like the Citroen Ami, Smart Car or Twizy, it's the cheapest on the market.
The MG4 costs $24,995, and I know what you're thinking, it's cheap because it's rubbish, but it's actually not rubbish. Okay, this is the top spec trophy version, which costs just over £30,000, but even then, the value is absolutely off the charts, and it looks good as well. Take in some of the design highlights. Look at this, it's got a little crease on the bonnet for no reason other than to make it look interesting. It's got a sharp leading edge, it's got sharp headlights, it's even got a really interesting set of indicators at the side, LEDs. I mean, they could have tucked that away in the main beams as a crappy little bulb, but they've gone for that extra little flare. It's even got a set of active vents at the front that open and close to cool the battery as needed. Not even Teslas have that. Teslas don't need it, shut up. So, along the side, it's also quite good looking. Traditional hatchback design, although it rides pretty high. Check the gap between the wheels and the wheel arch. Also, I love the color combination going on here as well. This is called Volcano Orange. It's only available on the trophy version. And I do love the way it contrasts with the black on these door mirrors, the black roof, the black greenhouse, including this black tinted section at the rear and this black area at the bottom, which just helps to visually disguise the mass of the car. It rides on 18-inch wheels as standard, no options there. And actually, they are alloy wheels, even though they might not look it. But they live behind these, I was going to say horrible, they're not that bad, but I think the wheels actually look better than these plastic covers, which are there to help aerodynamic efficiency. Let's see how aero efficient they actually are. Actually quite good, actually. I should get that back. At the back, I'm also a big fan. I think it's cool. I think my personal highlight is this spoiler, again, only available on the top model, but it looks good. I love the way it flows from the body color into the spoilers at the rear. These lights are a little bit Prius-esque, shall we say, although not as bad as a Prius. I think I'm a fan of the way it's got this translucent cover over the lights. I think I like it, but I definitely do like these red lines. These are actually backlit LEDs that glow at night to give it a really interesting aesthetic. Yeah, MG4, big fan. Color me impressed.
The boot isn't bad. It gives you a respectable 363 litres, which is bigger than an ID3. It has usable underfloor storage with a bag for a charging cable, and the rear seats fold down to make it a genuinely practical proposition. Speaking of which, the second row is good too. Lots of legroom and headroom, even for those over 6 foot. And although there is no armrest or central cup holders, there are 2 ISOFIX points and space for stashing your gadgets or loose change. There's only a single USB port, sadly, and no aircon vents at the rear, but given the price, that's pretty easy to live with.
Okay, let's take a look at the interior. When manufacturers are trying to save money, this is the place you normally see where they've done it. But actually, the MG4 ain't too bad, specifically on this top model. Now, the materials are quite good. You've got a mixture of fake leather and cloth for the seats. I reckon those will be quite easy to keep clean. They're also quite supportive. You've got electrically adjusted seats on this top version, and the steering wheel is manually adjusted for rake and reach, so you can always get yourself an easy, comfortable driving position. On the dashboard, again, you've got some more fake leather stuff, but it's soft and squidgy and looks quite good. You've got this piano black just below it as well. Not normally a fan of too much piano black, but there's a nice enough amount of it in here. Storage-wise, decent sized glove box, 2 cup holders, some hidden storage in the center console, and a decent sized bin just there. The door pockets are on the small side, but generally there's enough room here to keep all your bits and bobs. Now, tech. I'm going to talk extensively about this later on, but on first glance, it's okay. You've got 2 USB ports, one full size and one USB Type-C, and a big infotainment display, plus a little driver display just in front of the steering wheel. Again, there's a mixture of good and bad with these, and I'll come back to that in just a moment, but for right now, the cameraman is looking a bit wet and cold. So let's go for a drive. Okay, on the road, what is the MG4 like to drive? I think you probably guessed by now. It's really good. Electric cars are the great leveler. Even the cheap ones are pretty much as good as the expensive ones. And the MG4 is no different. It's nice and quiet and smooth and refined. There's a little bit of wind noise. Anywhere above 65 miles an hour, these door mirrors can cause a little bit of rustle from the wind. But aside from that, it's generally a very quiet, refined, and comfortable car to drive. On the subject of comfort, the suspension is pretty well judged as well. It's a little bit on the stiff side. Electric cars tend to be a tad stiffer than their petrol or diesel counterparts. I'd say it's on a par with a Tesla Model 3. It's noticeably smoother than the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and there or thereabouts as smooth as a Corsa E or a Peugeot E208. So yep, suspension, no problem whatsoever. Let's see what the steering's like. Chucking it into this left-hander. That's actually really good. It's sporty, it's direct, but it's not too hyperactive, and it's responsive and easy to place on the road. That's really nice, I like that. Right now, there are basically 2 versions of the MG4, the standard model, oh, it's beeping at me, I'll come back to that in a sec, and a long-range version. Now, the standard car has a 170 horsepower electric motor mounted at the back, driving the rear wheels, and that's quick enough to do 0 to 62 in well under 7 seconds. The more powerful car has a 200 horsepower electric motor, same layout, but it's not quicker. It's actually a tiny bit slower because it has a bigger battery pack and therefore it has more weight. But even then, it's still quicker than the Corsa E and the Peugeot E208. Let me just whack it into sport mode and floor it. Yeah, there's plenty of juice there for overtaking or just for having a good time. Say what you want about it, but it's definitely not boring.
As for batteries, the standard and long-range cars have different sizes. The cheaper one uses a 50.8 kilowatt-hour battery, and the more expensive model uses a large 61.7 kilowatt-hour battery. That is noticeably bigger than any of its rivals, so the range is very impressive for a car of this price. You get up to 217 with the smaller battery and 281 with the larger.
As for the brakes, well, they're quite impressive as well. It comes with disc brakes all around. There are a few of its rivals that only come with drum brakes at the rear, which aren't quite as strong, but by having disc brakes, you do get some really strong, effective braking from the MG4. It's also got a variety of different energy recovery modes. So when you lift off the accelerator pedal, if you're in weak mode, it will basically just cruise. Go into medium mode, it will slow the car down a bit more aggressively, and strong gives you more aggressive braking still. It doesn't actually slow the car down to a complete standstill. There isn't a single pedal driving mode, which could be a missed opportunity depending on your point of view. In the time that I've had with this car, I've been averaging around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and that's by doing a mixture of short commutes and longer drives along A roads. And I've got to say, that's not too bad. I mean, 3 miles per kilowatt hour in this kind of weather, it's where it's a bit chilly, 6 degrees. That equates to, I'd say, around 185 miles of range by my calculations, although the car seems to believe that on a full charge, it will get closer to 285 miles. So the truth might be somewhere in the middle, depending on how you drive it. Recharging speed is pretty good as well. The entry-level car will recharge at 117 kilowatts, which again is quicker than some of its rivals. And all this beeping, I'm going to talk about it in just a second. And the higher level model will recharge at 135 kilowatts. So you can find yourself a DC rapid charger and top up pretty quickly in this car. On that subject, the sat-nav is quite good as well, because it will show you all the charging points in your area and also the speed, quit beeping at me, and also the speed at which those charging points recharge. So you can pick your charging point based on the speed of the charger. That's not the case for all of its rivals. Clever touch. Okay, now we're going to talk about the beeping. You might have heard it on and off throughout my drive today, and that's basically because this car comes with a variety of advanced driver assistance systems that look out for you on the road. Basically, they tell you things like you're drifting out of your lane, you're about to crash into a car in front of you, and just keeps you alert as to what's going on. That's good, but the downside is that it's a little bit paranoid that you're about to have an accident every 5 minutes. So if it sees you drift too close to the edge of your lane, it will beep at you. If you brake too late and there's a car in front, it'll go nuts at you. You can turn it off, but only temporarily. When you switch the car off and then on again, those systems will re-engage. So it's just something you're gonna have to live with, I'm afraid. There are a couple of things worth pointing out. I've noticed while driving this car that it doesn't come with any parking sensors, front or rear, which is a little bit annoying. There are cameras, so it can show you how close you are to objects, but I do prefer ultrasonic parking sensors because I find them a bit more reliable. Quit peeping at me. And also less susceptible to weather as well. If your cameras are dirty because of the rain or the dirt or mud that's on the road, then they can become a little bit unreliable in that sense. But this is cool. Look, if I slow down and indicate, it will actually show me a view of the left-hand side of my car, which will help me get close to the curb without destroying my, I was going to say alloys there for a minute, but they're actually plastic covers, aren't they? And you also get a top-down bird's eye view of the car, which again makes it easier to park. And the MG4 has a pretty impressive turning circle as well. From a maneuverability standpoint, it's got good and bad, but definitely mostly good. Now, earlier on, I promised you I'd come back to the infotainment screen and have a little moan about a few quibbles that I have with it. On the whole, it's okay. It's divided up into these little widgets, which are easy enough to access and read. You've got a weather widget, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto widget, a charging widget, you've got your music widget and your nav widget. The problem I have, though, is how do you adjust the heating in the car? A typical thing that you have to do while driving. What you got to do is actually press this button down here twice, and then you get all these icons, and then you've got to decide which one of these to... it's disappeared. Let me try that again. I'm going to double tap that. Okay, all right, so there's the fan speed. I'm going to adjust the fan speed. Oh, it's gone again. That's a bit strange, isn't it? I think I'll try one more time. I'll double tap that. Now I'm here. Okay, I've got the fan speed. Now I've got to decide... Oh, no, it's gone. It's just... It gives you 3 seconds to decide what temperature to set. Otherwise, it just vanishes completely, which is... Well, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it, MG? Okay, let's try something else. The car does have voice control, so you can actually tell it what temperature to set via voice. So I'll press that.
I'm listening.
I'm cold.
Okay, temperature is raised to 30 degrees.
Vaguely acceptable, that's fine. But then there's other little quirks with the voice recognition. For example...
Hi, how can I help?
Turn on the heated steering wheel.
Pardon?
Heated steering.
Where would you like to go?
No, it has a heated steering wheel, but it won't let me activate it. But then check this, right?
Yes.
Open the sunroof. It's like, yep, done it. Car doesn't have a sunroof. What is going on? So the big question, do I like the MG4? I think you already know how I feel about this car. I said it right, be quiet. I said it right at the start of this film that I don't think there is a better value electric family car on the market today. This thing, price-wise, is unbeatable, especially for all the equipment you get, and especially for the way it drives and the way it looks. Range, design, comfort, tech, not all perfect, but trust me, this thing is streets ahead of the majority of the competition. If you want an electric car for your family, or you just want a second car that's powered by batteries, go check it out.